How do I integrate Gmail with my business domain name? Currently, I can send as my business from Gmail, but if you reply and I reply back, the second email is my Gmail account and not my business email. Okay, the last question that I have prepared and ready to go for today comes from Lee Miller. Lee wants to know, how do I integrate Gmail with my business domain name? Currently, I can send as my business from Gmail, but if you reply and I reply back, the second email is my Gmail account and not my business email. Lee, this one's a little more involved. There's a lot of steps in this process, and it is a little too detailed for this call because of how much time it takes and all the steps involved. But let me give you a quick overview on kind of how it works in general, and I'll use myself as an example. There's a couple steps in the process. So first of all, officially, if you want to use your business domain name with your email address and you want to use the Gmail system, the simplest, best, probably the way that Gmail encourages you to do it is by purchasing their G Suites package, what they call G Suites. It's the idea that you can use your business name, your business domain name, and you'll get all the Google services as part of that bundle. Don't hold me to this price. I want to say it's about $4 or $5 per user per month. That's pretty comparable with what Microsoft is also charging for their online email user-owned email service. I encourage my customers, pick Google or pick Microsoft to be your email server. I do help my customers with their website hosting. I'm going to get into that in just a second because you need that if you're going to go option B, Lee. You have to use your own website hosting. So I provide website hosting as a service for my clients, and I help them set that up put their website on it. By the way, website hosting is where your website lives on the internet, and the domain name is the address. So for example, gilbertstudios.com, that's my address. AskAWebGeek.com, that's another one of my addresses. And I have website hosting. It's like the apartment that your website lives in. And I put the website in the apartment, and then we slap that address on it. And if you go to AskAWebGeek.com, you'll come over here, you get to see the website that I've got in that hosting area, and boom, that's where the website lives. So we have to do a little manipulation if you're using a free Gmail account and you want to use a domain name. It used to be that it was a lot easier, that you could just open up a Gmail account, whatever my name is, at gmail.com. You could go into the settings, you could add an alias, any other email address you wanted to use, and as long as you were receiving email to that address, Google sent you a message to make sure you could receive it, then they're like, fine, if you're receiving it, it's yours, then we can also send as it. So if you're old school and you set this up years ago, you've been grandfathered in, and Google, Gmail may be sending your email through their own Gmail systems using your domain name. This is not recommended anymore, and Google has changed the way that they're doing it. If you want to use the free Gmail, whatever my address is at gmail.com, but you want to use it with your business domain name, now you have to be using a website host in order to actually send that email for you. For example, in my system, I have it set up. I've got all my domain names, right? And I've got my one Gmail address where all of my email comes into, but I can email you out through multiple different addresses. And the reason I can do that is because I've created an email address box in my website hosting, and I'm literally sending the email through that server and then out to the world. So I'm still inside Gmail, and I'm typing the email in Gmail, whoop, and then when I click send, it goes down to the Gilbert Studios server, goes through the Gilbert Studios server, I keep hitting my mic, sorry, and then it sends it out from there. So it's not actually being sent through the Gmail server, it's being routed through my gilbertstudios.com and then sent out. Does that make sense? So it used to be that Gmail would just send it for you from their server. Now it needs to actually come through your legitimate domain name server. So you can do that as part of the G Suites package that you're paying for, and they take care of that setup. You just route your domain name over to them, and they take care of everything else. I can also help you with those settings if you need. Or if you're using the free Gmail account, there is a way that we can do it, but it requires you having your own website host. And your website host is actually where that email is being sent through. Let me know if that made sense at all. I just said a lot of words, and let me know if by the time they got to you on that side, they actually meant something. That's a little bit more complicated than it's a little more complicated than we can pull up a website and click something and fix a problem right now, which is really my whole goal for the show, is that we can fix problems right now. This is your chance to have an hour of free coaching with CJ every week to get all those questions answered. I work with people all the time on their websites and their marketing, and these little questions pop up all the time. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I upload this picture? It's not working. It's not, I'm doing the thing it says, but it's just not taking it. And what's fun is that when we're working virtually in this way, and I can take over the screen and I can start doing it on my side, guess what? The computer, the internet still fights me. And I always say to my clients, oh, I'm sorry, this is, giving me a little hard time, or it's not working the way we want. And every time my client says to me, I love it. Are you kidding? I love to watch you fight with the computer because it makes me feel so much better. I thought I was the only one that fought with the computer. And here it is, my web geeks over here fighting with the computer just as well. Well, that is absolutely true. I fight with that computer all day long. I'm just more resilient to it. I'm just used to it, right? I expect it to fight back with me, and I'm not put off by that. I don't have any problem fighting with the computer. So let me fight on your behalf. We'll fight it together, okay? It's really not as malicious as it seems. It's just doing what it's told, and sometimes those signals get crossed. So I speak geek and I speak normal human. Let me translate between the two for you. Okay. Lee, I hope that answers your questions. It probably does not, because there's a lot of settings. We should maybe set up a time to look at your specific Gmail settings. That's a great example of something we should do in a private call instead of the public call, so I can actually see what your settings are and your passwords and that kind of thing, and make sure that it gets set up. So if that's something that you need done for you, your domain name incorporated with your Gmail address. I love Gmail. I love the Google platform. It's amazing. I use it for everything, and I encourage all my clients to do it too. Get the G Suites package if you want to pay Google to have access to all of those suites of services. If you're already using a free Gmail account, you can still use your domain name, but there's a couple things we got to do first to get that to work through a website host. You might already have a website host. If you do not have a website host, I would be happy to be your website host and help you with all those settings too. You can assume that would be a couple hours service. Let's guess that would be like 160 to 180 to set up that whole situation. Here's how I normally do that. If a client just wants me to consult to set that up for them, be about 160, about 180 to set that up for them. Or if they're paying me to be their website host, I just kind of include that in the package. So I let them pay me for the hosting for the year or per month, and then I'll help them set up that email part as part of that service. So either way, I do the hosting and set it up, or I just help you set it up on your own hosting. Expect that that's about a $200 service, if you will, for a couple hours of time and configuring all the steps. What I found is if you know what to do, none of the steps are too difficult. There's just so many steps, and I'm really good at keeping track of what those steps are and what's the next thing we need to do in the process. So, man, great questions today. Check us out on Facebook, join our group, ask those questions, participate in our discussions throughout the week. Tweet me if you have anything to ask. I'm also on Twitter, Ask A Web Geek. Then subscribe. This is going to go live eventually to our YouTube channel. I'd love for your support and comments there. And then it's also going to become a podcast. If you're a podcast listener, subscribe on iTunes and subscribe anywhere else that you catch your podcasts. I love podcasts. Really great for listening on the go. And that's what I listen to most of the time, unless I'm listening to music. I usually listen to music while I'm working, and then if I'm in the car, it's kind of like a mini university. Someone refers to their car as their mini university because you can study on the go. Guys, thanks so much for your time and attention. Please let me know what questions you have. Tweet me, Facebook group, private message if it's appropriate. I really appreciate it. So I'm really excited about where the show's going to go. Let me know what you want answered in our next class. This is your opportunity to Ask a Web Geek. All the details are on the website, askawebgeek.com. Remember, the internet is a jungle. You don't want to get lost. Hire a well-trained guide to lead you through and get you where you want to go. God bless. Ask a Web Geek. Askawebgeek.com. The internet's a jungle. Roar!